Hello everyone. A little bit about myself. My name is Nav, and I'm working at a Manulife in Canada. It's an insurance company as a mobile software engineer. Most of the time I'm spending with working on Android. Apart from that, I'm also a Google developer expert for Android and writing a couple of articles about Android and Kotlin. And that's a little bit about myself. And today we will explore the new API which is introduced in Android 12, but it's also provides support for older versions, so we can use it. And we will see like what are the major issues that are currently exist in Android space and how this API helps us to fix those issues. So first, what is the unified API? It's basically for supporting the rich content insertion in Android applications. If you know that most of the time, like when we try to interact with other people, like for example, if we have chat applications like WhatsApp or Signal or many other applications are there, right? So how does it provide? It helps like most of the time we love to share content, like not just by typing everything. Like we love to share gifs or emojis or just grabbing some images from like browser, like just download them and then just again come to the app. And it's like lot of switching between different applications in that kind of scenarios. So unified API, it provides a common, like a single solution for supporting all those use cases, and it's just a one implementation, and it's supporting all the scenarios for rich content insertion in Android. So it's just for example, as in the slides, if you can see, it's a clipboard or keyboard or drag and drop kind of features. So it provides support for all those features. So as I told you, like it's a single source of implementation or source of truth where you can add your implementation or you can define like which type of content your application is going to support. And you need to implement the interface which is on the receive content listener. And it has a one method that needs to be implemented. And there you provide the implementation actually to, you will define like which kind of content you support, like for example images, videos, or plain text, or gifs or emojis. So this is the single source where you need to take care of everything that you're going to support. So there are various options, as I told you before, like long press menus, like for copy paste. And if you know, like right now we have devices where we have split window support, so we as user can play with multiple applications at the same time. So for those kind of scenarios, like if you want to drag content from one application to another application, and like keyboard images or gifs or stickers, so for those kind of use cases, they all use cases they have for the existing solutions, like everything has their own implementation. So for example, for copy paste, there is a on text context menu item API, then there is on drag event, and we need to like implement to support the drag and drop feature in our application. And then for input commit content is there, and we attach the commit content listener and start listening from there. I personally haven't used these APIs before, and then I realized and figured out that there is a new API in the town for supporting all these features, and we just need to support like one API, and it covers all these use cases for us, and we don't need to like implement three different solutions for three different features. So this is basically what I explained in the previous slide. So the previous solution was if you see in the middle, all the solutions, like they have like a one-to-one relation, like each feature has its own API, and that we need to support if we want to support all the features. So three APIs, three implementations, three features. But with the unified API, it's just a one API, and That's it. And we need to like just to mention or just to provide the implementation what we need to support, and we from there we can go from there like with the processing the content when it will be received by the application. So that's the pretty much about the basics of like how unified API, like what is it and how it helps to support the rich content insertion and making the developers' life more easier than existing solutions. So now we will see the implementation, like the sample, like how it actually works. So as I told you, like we have our own receive content listener. It's a interface and it has abstract method. Signature is here. It has two parameters like view and content info, which is called payload here. And what it does is like the view parameter is where you want to attach this listener. So for example, if you want to support rich content insertion in your edit texts in your Android views, you can add that. And content info is basically whatever the content you receive. So here view will be like it's not going we are not going to passing the view, but it's actually providing the access to the context and other stuff in the on receive content method. So this is the method which will be like implemented by developers to make sure if we want to support a rich content insertion. So this is the sample example I have posted on my GitHub. I will share the links afterwards. So here I have implemented the on receive content listener. It's a Kotlin based sample. So as I told you, like we need to define which content type we want to support. So in this case, I have defined mime types for like images and videos. And then I write the method called on receive content. And if you see, there is like this is the sample where I am partitioning the content which payload which I received when user tries to insert the content here. So what I trying to achieve is here like checking if the item is having a valid URI and partition based on that. So if there are, let's say, multiple items coming, for example, if user is selecting images and they have valid URIs, it will create two partitions for me. So if there is no URI exists, like user just simply try to paste the text. In that case, it will not be going through the URI. But if user tries to like insert some other content, for example, videos or images, it will be having a valid URI. So I will get the URIs, and then for each item, I am it providing me the clip data, and from there we can access the URIs, and from there you can do whatever you want with your content. In this case, for example, if I have an image, I can use the libraries like Glide or Picasso or Coil to load the image from that given like the received URIs. And the cool thing is like for like URIs for reading from those URIs, we don't need any kind of permissions, because whenever the content is received through the unified API, the permissions will be automatically provided for a specific time to listen from those URIs. So we don't need to add a permission for reading content from the URIs in this API. And that was the implementation. And now we'll, if as example I told you before, like we need to set it on any view where we want to support the rich content insertion. So this is a sample. For example, I have a main activity, and there I have a view in the layout called my input, which is edit text. And then using the view compat dot receive content listener, it will take three parameters. Like the first one is the view where we want to add it. The second one is the mime types, like what we want to support. And the third is the receiver implementation, whichever we have in our case, which is my receiver that I implemented previously. And these are the three parameters, and this is from where we are good to go. And whenever whatever you are supporting, it will be like easily like you will get the content access to that URIs. So for example, images and videos that I spotted, and by default, whichever view is that will be supported by default by the platform. For example, in this case, the text will be the default input for edit text. So I don't need to mention that one. But if you want to like customize the input by the user, you can also mention that in the mime types and then process accordingly. Which is in this case like whatever we want to handle, we are set like providing them like explaining to the system like I will handle these kind of fields by myself or the input by myself, and then we will return the whatever we don't want to handle. In this case, I will handle the images and videos, and if there is anything else, that will be the platform specific. For example, like text, it will go through the platform and platform will decide if that particular view is supporting that input. It will just process it, otherwise it will be ignored by the system silently. So it's basically if you have any ever experience with the keyboard image API, it's basically a extended version of that API, but it provides more support than the existing one. So for example, like insertion from keyboard using long press menus, drag and drop, all these features, they are supported by the unified API. And it also supports like all the options for native API. So whenever you try to use it, use the I think the native, like the library which provides a support for backward compatibility also. So there is a version, I think most of the libraries, they are coming through the Jetpack, Android Jetpack libraries. So this is also one from that. So if you have like older APIs, you can use that library version according to your requirements, and you don't need to like implement 3 different APIs to support all these kind of features in your applications. So that's pretty much all about the basics of unified API, how it works. And here are the couple of references. I written the article about it, and that article has the references for the code also, and I explained various things in there. And then there are some Android documentation, and the last link is about the GitHub repository. It has a couple of branches, and I here specifically named like link to the branch, which is Unified Rich Content API. And let me I show you some details that I have added in my link, but not in the slides. So we have covered this. So this is another thing, which is a source of content. So sometimes we need to like process not just the content, but we also need to make sure that like we need to process based on from where actually that content is coming. So there are 4 possible values or 4 possible options, like from where that content is coming through. So these are the constants, like they have the int values specific to them, and they are like source from source app, which is like the content is coming from the application itself. And second one is from the clipboard, which is the platform specific clipboard, and which is like, for example, you are copy pasting, that kind of scenarios. And source is input method when user actually is like interacting through the keyboard. And the drag and drop is like you are like if you are using the split mode like Windows, it from there, like if you try to drag for example image or anything from for example A application to B application or your application kind of scenario, so you can figure out the input source, and then if you want to do something specific based on the source of the input, you can also perform that also in using this source of content, which is available through the content info. So this is the library which is called it's a app. I think it's not there is not a specific library, but you just need to make sure that you have the app compat 1.4 or higher, and it will provide you the support for this. So this is basically the same code that I explained earlier. Yeah, process the. So this is the another thing. Like if you see in the slides, I said like you can process based on that whatever you received. So in my case, like if you go through the repository, what I did is here like I'm processing the content. If it's a valid URI, I called this method. If you see here, like process the URI. This is the part that I didn't add it in the slides. So whenever the valid URI is there, I pass it to the method which is called content resolver, which takes URI and the first component. Basically, if you see here the pair where I'm making the partition of the whatever payload is coming based on the URIs. If the valid URI is there, then the first component of that pair is with the valid URI. So I call the content resolver, which is defined here. So what it does is like I'm checking like if URI is, if you see here, I am defining the mime type here, like get the type of the given URI, and then I'm checking like if it's the image, and this is basically Kotlin written, so it's the when statement. And if this case is true, I'm using the like loading that image to the this image view using the coil library. This load method is basically from the that library, but you can use any others. And if it's the video, I use the video view. The full sample is in the GitHub, so just loading the video for that URL. But this is just a sample, like how we can access the content using the URIs that are like received by this content listener. So this is basically a demo. Let me make it a little bit limitless so I can. So if you see here, I have opened the split view and I'm dragging like image from gallery to my application, and it's inserted there. So this is the first case, like the drag and drop. If you see earlier, like if you are spotting this, like image insertion in your views, like for example, in my case, I have defined, so it will work as expected. And the next one is the copy paste. So here is the sample application, and I go to the browser. I just copy the image from the browser, and now it will. So it will be pasted here. If you see in the clipboard, the image is shown there. And if you have spotted the image insertion, it will be processed accordingly. So it will loading the image from there, but you can do whatever you want and whatever you spot. So this is the basics of like the unified API. And that's all in this talk. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I will share the slides and my social links for Twitter and LinkedIn if you want to connect there. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask there. Thanks for your time.